Neil, Old Firm legend, 33 derbies, 18 wins for Celtic. Do you miss those games?
Yeah, I mean they were very special. The build-up to them was very exciting, and then, to be fair, the quality of player that I played with and played against in those games was world class. Yeah.
Oh.
So the speed of the games and the quality of the games, just needed your maximum concentration. You needed to be at your best for them, and like I said, the build-up was really exciting. So yeah, I really enjoyed being part of it and a part of that era as well.
When your first and second derbies were within 4 days of each other, Hampden and then Parkhead, was incredible.
I remember Martin saying to me, "Look, it'll be a blur your first game," and it was. The first 45 minutes at Hampden it was a blur. But I think we'd gone 2 up, and then we ended up winning the game 3-1, and then obviously the next one's on the Sunday, so you're fully prepared for it then, and you know what's coming, and then you're in it then. So it's steeped in history, it's steeped in rivalry. It's one of the best fixtures in world football, and again that sort of rivalry, it never seems to diminish, Derek.
Player or manager, what derby did you prefer?
Playing. When you're a manager, it's fraught with all sorts of pressure and tension. I remember Walter Smith saying, the first emotion you feel after winning is relief, and that is certainly true. Obviously, there's huge disappointment when you lose it. So yeah, playing, I'd much prefer playing in them and winning. And like I say, that sort of era, I was very lucky to be involved in it and playing with great players, and then playing against your two guys, your Fergusons, your Alberts, your Newmans. The games were just racked with quality players.
The thing is that the Rangers team of that era was worthy of proper respect, wasn't it? I mean, there was some tremendous talents in there, and obviously, Barry Ferguson as well. They were proper Celtic and Rangers teams, weren't they?
Yeah, but we at that time, both clubs could go and take the best from England, or take players from England. Obviously, things have changed in the past 25 years where it's impossible now. But yeah, so I came at a time when Martin was building a team, and Dick Advocaat was already the manager. They'd won a treble, and you're right, the team was full of class players, and they brought up Tori Andre Flo on top of that. So, and the rivalry was severe, on the pitch, off the pitch there was a healthy respect for each other, but the games were fantastic to play in.
What were the memorable ones for you, Neil, that stuck out?
When Henrik got his 50th goal, it was our first game at Ibrox, we won that one 3-0. Yeah, he got 2 that day. Sutty scored a chip in 2004, which meant we'd won them all that season, we'd whitewashed them. He sort of 90 odd minute, he dinked Stefan Kloss, I think 2004. There was a couple under Gordon as well. Anytime you won at Ibrox as well was pretty special.
Did you prefer winning at Ibrox?
Yeah, funnily enough, I love playing there. I love the pitch, I love the logistics of the stadium, obviously the atmosphere. But yeah, I really enjoyed playing there. And obviously the fans, you had the double decker behind the goal, and you can see what it meant to them. It was that bit more special for whatever reason for me.
Your nature, do you love the theatre of all that?
Yeah, I did. Yeah.
I remember going to see you as you were there as Hibs manager, and Rangers scored in the first few seconds, and you're getting it tight, but then Hibs scored, and you've turned round, and you've given it the ears, and you just love that, don't you?
Yeah. And I sort of took it as a backhanded compliment that they would still give me it's the ones that they don't care about or don't think about that they don't bother with. So it's obviously the ones that get under the skin that they want to give it to, and vice versa, on the other side of the city as well. So yeah, I enjoyed the as you say, the theatre. It's a great cauldron. I always remember that game at the Hibs when I think it was Morales scored and the noise, because it was the home opening game of the season. The noise was deafening, and I thought, the Hibs team, would they be able to handle it further than they did? So yeah, great times.
Do you think the calibre of team Celtic and Rangers had then, do you ever see that returning?
Very difficult, unless we get a huge injection of TV money from somewhere, because the Premier League's just become this behemoth, and it outweighs everything else around the world, probably apart from the money that's in Saudi Arabia. So, to get like British players up from the Premier League now is now impossible due to, the transfer and the wages.
Who was your toughest opponent in an Old Firm environment?
Barry was good. Ronald de Boer was very good. He was a real clever player. He'd just play off, in between the lines and off the shoulder, and he could manipulate the ball with both feet. And he was, for a big guy, like, he had real sort of soft feet. And I liked playing against him because you had to concentrate fully when you just didn't know where he would pop up. Two-guy was class, real class. So if you're talking about midfield players, you pick those three out, really.
Would there have been one player that I don't know, fear would have been the right word, but would there have been one player in the derbies that all of you thought, he's the big threat, he's the one that can really hurt us?
Well, it varied, I remember Peter Lovenkrands having a good spell against us for a few games. Not just in the cup final he scored, but in league games as well. He had blind, and I think he scored in the League Cup final against us as well. Yeah, so
Scottish Cup final,
yeah, Peter was a threat at the time. Searing pace, and he was a good finisher once he was in there. But no one that you'd threats from all areas. In the first year you'd Alberts, who you had to get close to because he could score from any region, from 25 yards out. So yeah, the team was laced with quality, so you couldn't really sort of say a specific player. And most of the time, Martin would you just play your own game, concentrate on what we're going to do rather than the opposition, and see where it takes us.
It was a fantastic Celtic team. The quality in it, the stature of the players. Obviously, Henrik's the absolute standout, isn't he? Even when you look back now, can you believe how good he was? Is it just?
He's just. Sometimes I think, how do you do that? Really, honestly, and you look at him, and he wasn't the biggest, he wasn't the broadest, but he's just this lithe sort of athleticism, but power.
Ridiculous.
He's really sort of disguised power, especially in the air. When you get up and hang and power headers in against bigger boys, left foot, right foot finishes. But he scored a lot of goals, but he also scored I always go back to this. He scored the goals. Whenever you needed a goal in a big game, he was, more or less the man to call on, or he would turn up.
He'd one of the most horrific leg breaks I think any of us have ever seen live in a game. Yet the next season he scores 53 goals. That's just phenomenal.
I know I wasn't there when he broke his leg, but obviously I came in the December of the following season, and got to obviously work with him and Lubo, which was kind of cool, and then obviously. Tomo I'd never played with. I played against him, but never played with him. And then Dolph at the back, and all these really cool players. But they were a good group to be with, and.
Who were your best pals?
Well, all my pals, myself, Sutty, Tomo, Jackie. Every now and again, we'd go out for lunch after training, or Tommy Johnson. Because they all lived up in Newton Mearns. So sort of head out after lunch and. You just grow together, as a group. And then Big John came in the following year. Lambo was a good friend, long-time friend, great player, just great professional. So we're all it was a good band of brothers, really, do you know what I mean?
What were your haunts back then? Where did you like going?
God, good question.
Was there something, was there a wee pub you could go, you wouldn't get bothered, and you could have a couple of pints and nobody would bother you, and it might have been out the way?
Well, I lived in I moved to the West End, so... I would be around sort of Ginties and places like that, or would go to. There was one of the oldest bar in Glasgow, the old college bar it was called. So we'd go in there and
up the high street. I think.
Yeah. We wouldn't get any bother in there, obviously, because everyone was older than time in there, playing dominoes and stuff like that, and they didn't really know who we were. So.
Would you just sit in a corner?
Yeah, but it's very, very rare.
Yeah.
We would all get together, as a group. Mainly it was for functions or dinners and stuff like that. But we had a good social time, and but we were really, really close as a team. And you were playing a lot. You were playing 50, 60 games a season, so it'd be Sunday, Wednesday, Saturday, for a week on end, weeks on end, and you didn't really get a lot of time to go out and sort of, let your hair down.
Did you ever see the Rangers lads out and about?
Oh,
And all cool?
yeah.
All
I mean, a lot of the lads were, like you said, lived up in the Mearns, and they were close as neighbours and got on really well with each other, and then sort of tried to kill each other on a match day. But that's the way it was, isn't it?
Great days,
Never changed. They were great days, very, very special. I remember my debut at Dundee, and obviously remember the games. I remember my first medal at Hampden against Kilmarnock. It was, just a great time. And then obviously the Champions League came after that, and beating Ajax, and what it meant to the fans after that. The Champions League nights, the first ones, never experienced an atmosphere like them.
Do you remember the days you dyed your hair blonde?
Yeah. I dyed it before I come up, and then kept it, and then Martin told me to get rid of that, basically. I said, I like to be different. He says, be different, score a goal. So I soon got rid of that, because it was just too standoutish in Glasgow.
How many times would they fine you?
Lots of times.
Yeah.
Like, we had more arguments about my off the field activities than stuff on the field, really. But he knew how to manage me, and he give us all our free time to let a bit of steam off and that. But very, very rarely, over the 10 years, would we have crossed word, really.
He knew how to get the best out of you as a player, though, Neil.
He knew how to get the best out of everybody.
Yeah, you were talking earlier about his man management, but I mean, at Leicester City, the team he put together, and he took you from Crewe, and I always laugh when I think about the night he signed you, and unorthodox.
Yeah, he called it a hovel. I was renting a room off my mate because I didn't have a lot of money, and I'd spoken to Coventry, and I was due to go to Coventry on the Wednesday, and Martin rocked up in this big Mercedes, in a cobblestone street in Manchester, a little terraced street, and his big black Mercedes rocks up, and he came and sort of sold Leicester to me, and sold himself to me, basically, and couldn't say no after I'd spoken. You just get got that feeling from him and John Robertson, and yeah, again, a sliding doors moment in your life where things changed. But it didn't, like I say, it didn't go easy for him at the start, Derek. There was pitch demonstrations wanting him out, and when I look back on how strong he was then, and how I think that really was a lightning rod for him.
I was going to say, what he went through then, see if that had been now, would he have been sacked?
Yeah.
He wouldn't have survived.
Well, possibly. I mean, the pitch demonstrations one day against Sheffield United, and then we went on this run where we went, I think we won 8 out of 9 or 8 out of 10, got into the playoffs and got promoted, and he never looked back after that. But he was brilliant, he was really strong at that time, and it could not have been easy for him.
Your rise to be a player, you were 16, and you scored for Glenavon. Glenavon, I beg your pardon. You go to Man City. I mean, you played for Man City at 16 as well, was that right? Mel Machin.
Yeah, Mel was my manager. Yeah.
Which is a phenomenal achievement to play for a club at Man City at 16.
I had a great. I went to City in November. It was like Halloween 1987. So I'll keep looking back on it. So that's 38 years ago. It'll be coming up at the end of this month. 38 years. It's incredible.
Right.
And I had a great sort of couple of coaches, and Tony Book, who was a club legend, and Glenn Pardo, who, it's a bit like Man City's version of the Lisbon Lions. They won everything, won the league, won the European Cup Winners' Cup, won the FA Cup, and in the late 60s. And that's in a time when Man United had best law in Charlton. So City were as good as United in those days. Colin Bell and these guys had played with them. And so the education I got from those two was fantastic. It stood me my whole career, really. And I got into the team. Mel took a shine to me. I was playing a lot of reserve games, and he put me in. I was a right back, believe it or not, and played Birmingham City at St Andrews. That was my debut. We won 3-0. But in the first minute, there was a Scottish striker called Andy Kennedy. I don't know if you remember Big Andy.
Yeah.
And he went right through me in the first minute. And my ankle, was swollen out here, so I didn't play the rest of this. There was only a few games left anyway. So that was my introduction to first team football. And then never played again after that. I did my apprenticeship, did my pro. Howard Kendall came in. I really enjoyed working under him, but then, he let me go. And then bumped into him about 7 years later when I was at Leicester, and he was in Mallorca, and he called me over. He was having a beer, and he went, Made a mistake with you, son, didn't I? Shouldn't have let you go. So that was really nice. I really like working with him as well. He was brilliant to work with. Really smart guy.
But clearly used that as motivation when you went to Crewe, because your career at that point was just meteoric.
It was a real bad injury with my back, a spinal fusion, and that sort of was devastating. Because I'd already gone through a real sort of, kick in the stomach with being released, and then you're thinking, God, it could be over before it's even really started. Then Crewe took me on. I had my first year, got Player of the Year. A couple of clubs were looking at me, and then at the end of the season I got diagnosed with spondylosis, which meant I had to have surgery on my back. I had a stress fracture in my L5, so I had to go to Belfast. I had a huge operation on that, and then I was out for 18 months. So you can imagine if it was really tough. I wasn't on a lot of money, and I was paying digs money. So go home, and then I had to do 3 months rehab at home, and then 15 months rehab back in England, in the gym, in the pool, day after day after day, and that was your life for 15 months. And then I came out, after like Arnold Schwarzenegger, was like out here. Obviously, then I had to thin out a bit, because I was, carrying a lot of muscle because I'd just been in the gym. And then I started playing, and never looked back after that, really.
So what, your early 20s when you get through that? Man?
I was I was in my hospital. I was in a hospital bed on my 20th birthday.
So I'm thinking, I'm speaking to you earlier about the horrendous stuff you had to deal with as a manager off the field. But I'm then thinking, when you were that age, going through that, the trauma of that, coming through that, and what you learnt about yourself and the resilience. Do you think that's ultimately what stayed with you throughout the rest of your career?
100%. It gave me so much self-discipline. It gave me so much determination, motivation. Because you think it's gone, and you're basically you're hanging by a thread, hoping that the surgery will be beneficial to you, but you just never know. And Crewe were brilliant with me. They showed loads of patience and got me the right sort of treatment and the right rehabilitation. And I've be permanently thankful for Dario and the club for that. And then I got playing, and then all of a sudden it just started going bump, 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 to the point where Premier League clubs like Coventry were coming in for me, and then obviously Martin came in for me as well. So yeah, it was a real tough time. But when you're young, you don't see it that way. When you're young, like I was 20, you're young, you're thinking, well, it's just part of. I've got to do this. I have to do. If I want to be a footballer, I have to do this. I have to get through it. I've got to get my head around it. And it was on oh my God, I think it was on about £110 a week, right?
What, Crewe?
And I was paying 50 quid a week. So you get taxed on that, and then you're paying 50 quid a week digs. So you're coming out with about 20, 25 quid a week. But then when you look back on it, what it does do, it makes you so grateful for what you do get then later on down the line.
What were your win bonuses?
I can't remember what they were. I can't remember.
My God. So you weren't exactly living a flash?
No.
Lifestyle there,
no, not at all.
No.
Not at all.
Big cars, no.
No. And a red Cortina with black doors. A Cortina Crusader it was called. And I bought it for 200 quid. Me and my landlord bought it. And somebody stole it, right? So you described to the police.
They're going, why?
I've got a red Cortina. Red? Yeah, with black doors. Are you taking the piss?
But to you it felt like a Ferrari at that time?
Absolutely, yeah. That was my baby, yeah.
Oh, my word. But I mean, you go to Leicester, and obviously Celtic ultimately came in for you, but who else came in for you for big money?
Leeds were looking at me, and Chelsea. I got a call from Ken Hutchison at the time. He was the chief executive at Chelsea, but I'd already made my mind up to go to Celtic.
Yeah, no question.
Yeah, well, obviously Martin was there, so that compounded it as well.
You would have known when Martin left, he was going to
Yeah.
Yeah, it was just a case of when, just patience and whatever. How do you describe life as a Celtic player, on and off the pitch? Is it just phenomenal?
Just a constant source of pride and happiness and excitement and all these things that come with it. Look, the highs are high and the lows are really low.
Yeah.
Right? There's no grey areas with it, but it's such a ride, you know what I mean?
Did you just love the whole lifestyle off the park as well?
Yeah.
Listen, there was a few scrapes.
No, I loved it, and I loved like the adulation that the fans give us at that time, because it was all sort of new again for them. All the success all of a sudden, like, you know, they've been craving it for over a decade, like, you know, since the late 80s, and all of a sudden this manager comes in and just changes the whole face of Scottish football with these players that he's brought in, and like the fans just treated us like gods.
And then you've got, obviously, the other side of it's a high profile, isn't it? Then you get moments like Buffalo Joe's, Newcastle, all the stuff that came, because you're high profile.
Well, the Buffalo Joe's thing was, you know, was a setup, and like there was nothing really in it anyway. We weren't doing anything out of the ordinary, just out having a night out. There was no sort of, you know, criminal activity going on or boisterousness. There was no fighting or anything. It was just nonsense.
I always remember the team, the Rangers and Celtic team buses were going down the motorway, weren't they?
Yeah,
both going for Christmas parties. And then was the communication between the two of you.
Yeah, they got a tip off and they went somewhere else. I think that's the story anyway. That's what it was told.
Yeah, but overall, life as a Celtic player, phenomenal.
Oh, it was a blast, absolute blast. And then, you know, you're playing in a European final. You're playing in the Champions League. You're beating Man United. You're beating Liverpool. You're beating Juventus. You're beating Barcelona. Doesn't get better than that, Derek.
305 games, 3 goals, prolific.
I was more prolific at Leicester. You know, scored more goals at Leicester, but in the Premier League. But because we had so many good attacking players, you know, you'd Henrik, you'd Lubo, you'd Big John.
To be fair, that was big of you, Neil. You didn't want to overshadow
exactly,
them. You held yourself back.
Exactly. That was it. And Martin never wanted me to go ahead of the ball a lot of the time as well. He just wanted me to, you know, pivot behind it. So I knew my role in the team, like, you know. So the goals weren't really the be all and end all for me.
Do you think you get the credit you deserved as a player?
I don't know. Yeah, absolutely.
You were getting booed for
absolutely.
playing the ball back.
Yeah, that was just one game. I think there was a lot of anxiety. It was a semi-final against Boa Vista, and I just think the fans were living on their nerves. It pissed me off at the time, like, but I mean, that was just a one-off. No, I think people, you know, even more so now realised, you know, what I brought to the team and how important it was to it, because I played all the games, you know, and I played all the big games, you know, and all the successful games. I was there, you know, and people might have dotted in and out, like, but I always played.
I think always struck me as well that you had a big respect for people on the other side, so to speak, and obviously as years went on, Walter Smith, you became a huge fan of Walter, didn't you? The two of you had a real close relationship as well, you know?
I wouldn't say closely, but there was huge respect from him, obviously, because of what he had achieved as a manager, and then when you go into management, you realise how difficult, or what the variables are in the job and the pressure that they're under all the time, and I think he handled it really, really well. And you know, he'd come in and fix things. He was, you know, when Rangers weren't going so well, they brought him back and he turned it around. I think that's a sign of a great manager.
Yeah, and obviously in time as well, you get to know other people. Ally McCoist. I mean, 2011, we all remember the bust up. I think it's come out subsequently. What was the cause of it? You may want to confirm it. Was he talking about your players? You didn't like it?
No, it was the opposite.
Or he told you to stop talking about them? Yeah.
But I wasn't talking about him because Jeff had sort of barged my physio and I'd had a pop at him, and then Coisey took offence to that, like, so it was just all, you know, all's fair in love and war. Do you know what I mean? Yeah, and glad rags. Yeah, it's just words more than anything else. It's just like the rivalry. You don't want to give an inch either way, so you don't.
Still laugh about it now, please.
Yeah, we don't really talk about it because everybody else does. Yeah. For us, it was like, I remember Walter giving us a bit of a dressing down after it and told us to behave, and that was it. Yeah, exactly. Behave yourselves, grow up.
Would you, I mean, 733 games as a player, 40 caps for Northern Ireland. Should have had a lot.
Should have been more, yeah.
Yeah, but we know the circumstance. And that was a death threat on the eve of a game. Do you regret retiring at that point?
No.
No. Did you feel there was no other choice?
No. Well, every time you go back, is it going to happen again? You know, that's going to be the story. It's not fair on the players, the rest of the team. And it was just, you know, I just felt it was the right decision. And I was, what was it, 31, 32. I'd still had plenty in me because I was, you know, went on to play for Celtic for another 3 or 4 years. But yeah, I would have had a lot more caps, but for that,
and
for
that's
sure.
Right in the eve of a game. There was a phone call.
Yeah, I was going to be captain.
For the
I was captain,
time.
yeah. So, and that's what people don't understand. Again, I talk about this is my career. I worked to get to that point in my career against a lot of odds, and then for people to take it away from me, it's sort of difficult to take. But again, that's not. You don't go into football to be tarnished with for political reasons or sectarian reasons. You go into football to play football because that's what you love to do.
How did that affect your mum and dad, Neil?
Yeah, it was really, really upsetting for my mother. Yeah, really upsetting. So yeah, we had to keep reassuring her. Of course, like she had the support of my dad and my sisters and that. But yeah, it wasn't easy for her, that's for sure.
I think ordinarily you would have gone beyond 50, 60 caps.
And easy.
More, you think?
Yeah. I'd have got beyond 50 anyway, for sure.
You feel better about that looking back?
Yeah, I do, yeah. Yeah, I do. Better. It's a difficult word, isn't it? Angry a little bit, yeah. Because like I said, it was my career, and that it's something that I'd always wanted to do.
How do you look back on your playing career? How would you like people to look on you as a player?
It's difficult, and everyone has their own opinions, and everyone will remember games or remember moments or remember seasons or whatever. I take a huge amount. I played in every division in England. Worked my way right to the very top, and then obviously came up here, won championships. I won trophies in England as well with Leicester. Won promotions at the clubs I was at, Forest, Crewe, Leicester. Won silverware with Leicester. Big major trophies like that not been done since the 60s. Then I come up here, play Champions League, captain the club. Get the European final. Unfortunately, didn't win it. So there's a lot in there to be thankful about. I'm proud of.
You even survived a kick in the head from Alan Shearer.
I did, yeah. Amongst other, listening, a few elbows from Martin Keown and Duncan Ferguson over the years, and a few tackles from Vieira and Keane, and yeah, it was great times. The late 90s, mid to late 90s was when I played in the English Premier League, and it was fabulous. It was absolutely fabulous.
See, just as you were telling me that Ibrox, you loved the fact that they were picking on you, because that was almost like a sign of respect in a way. Was that the same when the physical attention you were getting as a player, because you were getting targeted? You were seen as a key man.
Yeah, but I mean, you're up to the physical side of it. Like, that's not a problem for me. Give it as. I wasn't a dirty player, though. I have this reputation as being dirty. I thought I was pretty tough. I could handle myself, but it was pretty clean. I didn't get sent off that often. I certainly didn't get sent off for violent conduct or any bad tackles or challenges like that. I think up here it was like bookings.
I think
two yellows.
I think opponents would have respected you. You could give it, but you could take it.
Yeah.
You knew the game.
Yeah. So, and that's how I wanted to play the game. I wanted to play it clean. I wanted to play it fair, but I wanted to play it tough, and I wanted to get on the ball as much as I could. I loved being on the ball. I loved passing the ball. I loved being the fulcrum of the team. So a lot of things used to go through me, and I really enjoyed that aspect of the game.
How were things with you and Shearer for a while after that incident?
Well, I went to his hearing and spoke up for him, and then just left it, and then after, whenever we played each other, it was all pretty cordial. For me, we never had any history, and I don't know if it was just an instinctive thing or an accident. I'll always maintain it was an accident, so we just left it at that. I'd like to think if the shoe was on the off foot, he would have come and spoke on my behalf as well. So, and we get on great. We've done a lot of stuff with the charity. I've done a lot of stuff with the BBC and that, So, yeah, it was just maybe it looked a lot worse than what it actually was.
Your late mum, Neil, I never had the pleasure of meeting her, and I read so much about her. A wonderful lady, and at her service just over a year ago, your sister Orla.
Yeah.
Beautiful eulogy on your mum, and that revelation that your mum was just anxious to look after people, and she would put envelopes of cash through the letterboxes of people she thought needed it most, and it was always secret.
Yeah.
Did you even know that at the time?
That was a revelation to me. Although it doesn't surprise me about my mother, she was just a lovely woman. So I would send money home to mum and dad every week, as every son does, when you're doing okay for yourself, and that's how she felt best to, they weren't sort of extravagant, or they lived, they liked their life, they liked their family life, they liked to travel around Ireland, they didn't go abroad, they'd stop off and go to, hotels in the south or in the northwest and in Donegal and places like that. And that's how they enjoyed their life. And she liked to give. She maybe felt a bit uncomfortable getting the money and decided to share it with other people, which is, makes me very proud of her.
What did your success mean to you?
Everything. But like with three other kids, three sisters, so whatever they achieved in their life, that meant just as much as what I was doing. There's no. I did get a bit of the prodigal son treatment when I came home. They get the fatted calf out and that, like, you know what I mean. But the girls always took precedent in the house, and then when I came home, we'd have a good time together. It was always nice going home, and they're always pleased to see me. But they were super proud of me, like, no question. She always kept scrap albums, like, that was an interesting thing.
I was going to ask, was she the classic mother? Everything and anything that was in the scrapbook?
Yeah,
Wonderful.
from like I was like 10 years of age. It was amazing, really. And then, after a funeral, my sister showed me a letter where my mum had kept it when I was 9 years of age. What do you want to do in life? And I wanted to be a footballer and, play for Ireland and play in the World Cup and blah, blah, blah. And she kept the letter all them years, like, So we had even though I was away from 16, like, we'd always, they taught me good values. Taught me how to treat people the way I want to be treated. That was the sort of mantra in life, and it stood us all in good stead.
See, even when you were older, would she phone you and go, watch who you're talking to, and don't keep your wallet in your back pocket, and look after yourself?
No, I think once I got into my my 20s and things were starting to really take off for me, I think she was pretty content that I was capable of looking after myself, like, you know what I mean.
Would she phone you if you ever heard that she ever became aware you were in scrapes? Come on, Neil,
No, she never really tell me off, like, She would say, just look after yourself, like, just be careful and that type of stuff. She wasn't that type of angry parent. My dad, he was, he a bit different, like, he real sort of wicked sense of humour and, quick sarcastic word here and there, if I needed it, But no, I had a great upbringing, so I was very, very lucky.
Would you often sit in the living room with your dad? Maybe you had time off and you sat with him and watching the TV, or maybe talk about your career?
Yeah. They were great days, and he would come over. Came to Leicester a lot of times. Came to Crewe back in the day, and then obviously they loved what was happening at Celtic. So it was great to share them with your parents. And again, that's a luxury that maybe some people don't have in life, but I was able to do that.
Your son Gallagher, has he got a club just now?
He's a Broxburn. He's going to Broxburn in the Lowland League. He was down on trial in England, and he fractured his toe.
Centre half.
Excuse me. He can play. Yeah, I think he'll be a 6 eventually, but he'd had to have surgery on his toe, and he's just gone through all the rehabilitation. Now he was out for about 10 weeks. So Broxburn are going to take him on, and I want him just to enjoy what he's doing and get playing some games now, because he's missed out on a few months of training and playing.
I think there's few better things than seeing your kids doing well and
lovely.
Happy,
Yeah.
And, I know you when he was, Dumbarton and Bonnyrigg, obviously he was at St Mirren as well. You love going and watching him, but see when you saw him captain Northern Ireland under 19s. See, in terms of your life, is that right up there as satisfying as anything?
Just
incredible,
yeah. But to see how happy he was doing it, pleases me. I didn't want him to go into football. He chose to go into football, and now he's finding that it's tough. There's a reality to it. And to be fair, he's very conscientious with his work, and he takes it very seriously. So, playing for Northern Ireland was a real treat for him, and being the captain was an honour, and he loved it. So, again, he's in the formative years of his career, because he did all his schooling and did his hires and did really well with that, which we're just as proud of, if not more, of his education. So now he's just working his way in the game. We'll see where it takes him.
He's a very self-assured lad, isn't he?
Very, 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 very mature. Far more mature than me. So he must take after his mother.
He is a bright. I remember meeting him when he was younger. I remember the trip to Lisbon. You just left Celtic.
Oh, the Champions League.
And so he would have been 9, I think, at that point.
Yeah, he was.
And he was a funny lad. He was a lively lad. But you could tell right away that he's into his fashion. Music.
Wouldn't be my cup of tea. But he did well at school. He's very conscientious lad. He's good manners, which we think is really important. I think it can take you a long way in life. So yeah, we're very proud of him, and he's enjoying his life at the minute, and probably puts himself under too much pressure at times, which they all do in that generation.
You're big in your music. We loved seeing the picture of you at Murrayfield, Oasis, pint in hand, doing the jig.
It was very nostalgic for me because obviously I was a huge fan. See, I lived in Manchester, you know, at that time, and I lived in a place called Heaton Chapel, and the Gallaghers are from a place called Burnage, which is only, you know, 5 minutes from where I was, and you know, then I was part, you know, in that whole early 90s, the Manchester scene sort of took off with the Happy Mondays and the Spiral Carpets and the Charlatans, and then all of a sudden this group comes along and just blows the whole thing out of the water. And then obviously it was a generational thing. Everyone in football was into Oasis, and you know, any time I remember coming back from Wembley on a couple of occasions, and you know, What's the Story, Morning Glory was on, or Definitely Maybe was on the whole way up from London back to Leicester. So they were a huge influence on my life in a different way, and they had that gallousness, we call it gallousness up here. They had that swagger about them, and I think that they were a huge influence on my generation. I went to watch them loads of times.
Did you get to meet them? Did you get to know them?
I not really know them, but I've met them a couple of times. Yeah, they've been up at Celtic games, and we got to meet them after the gig at the Barrowlands. And I knew Craig Cash, who was in the royal family, and Craig Cash was actually the first DJ to play an Oasis song on the radio. So I was wasn't part of it. I was friends with people who knew them really, really well. People like Sally Lindsay of Coronation Street, and I knew them as on the social scene where I hung out in Manchester. So they're very special to me in a personal way, and obviously I love their music anyway. So when I was at Murrayfield and they're banging out all these tunes, and I'm looking at them going, God, if I had the ability at 54 to go back and be my 24-year-old self with all the knowledge that you have now, that's what Noel and Liam are doing. You know, they're so good now as musicians, and the concert was better than what I ever thought it was going to be. And at one stage I thought it was in 1995 again. It was just looking down at the throng of people, everyone in bucket hats, just having it. Do you know what I mean? It was brilliant, absolutely brilliant.
Who else you like music-wise?
Just all the.
Are you always listening to it in the car coming through?
I'm really got really pally with people, you know, Texas, Johnny and Charlene. Bobby Bluebell's a good friend of mine. I like Deacon Blue. A lot of the Scottish bands, Simple Minds, you know, and then the super groups like, you know, Rolling Stones. I'm not really into the modern music, like, you know, too much. I wouldn't know much about that, although Gallagher will have a lot of crap on in the car. And the players, the music they play in that dressing room is, oh my God, it's illegal.
What are you reading?
I just finished the trilogy of the Thursday Murder Clubs,
okay.
The Richard Osman, so but very, very twee. So alright, so I need to find something else to read now. I'm listening to a couple of history podcasts at the minute, so I'm getting into my history.
Neil, amazing career. There's still so much more to go with it.
I hope so.
Loved every moment talking to you with it. I really appreciate the time you've given us, and certainly wish you the best.
Cheers, Derek. Thanks very much.
Thank you.
Cheers.